cheers to another episode of the Wine Notes Podcast. I'm your guide, AJ Winezettel, on this journey of stories showcasing the people behind the wonderful world of wine, where we dive into conversations ranging from terroir, viticulture, to favorite music, superpowers, and more. Please enjoy this episode of the Wine Notes Podcast. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's this summer so far. It's like, to me, it's like been the perfect summer. I was driving down here. I had like a 45-minute drive with all the windows down, sunroof open, and I was just thinking it's got to be somewhat of a perfect growing season right now. You know, once we got past spring and May and a little bit of showers in June.
Yeah, it's gorgeous out there. My only thing is that it's August 1st as of this as the meeting right now, and I don't recall how we got to August 1st already. It went by pretty fast, but it is gorgeous out there, and hopefully there's time still before harvest to get the paddleboard in or get that day hike in and enjoy it before it turns.
Yes, most definitely. So I did bring a blind wine.
Great.
Can I pour us a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So as I tell everybody, whatever you want to say about it, you can. It's totally up to you. It's always fun to just bring a little something just to talk about. And I try, I don't always succeed, but I try to bring something that has a connection to you.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed. But anyway, I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
I like the nose. Oh, I could enjoy that on a day like today on the patio.
Yes.
And before we went on air, I said, I am certainly not a sommelier, and so assessing things, I do start with yum or yuck. And so right now I'm at yum.
Good. Yeah, That's always good.
Seems a little off dry to me. It's got some good medium weight to it, though, so that's why I think you can enjoy it on its own, right? It's not just, sometimes when I see a rosé of this color, there's always that chance that it's just going to be very acid-driven. It's just going to rip the enamel right off your teeth.
Right.
And I do personally like balanced rosés that are sort of that utility player. They should be, you should be able to enjoy them sort of on their own, but they also have to have enough acid to be food friendly. And that's my personal style, right? So this kind of fits. I think you said you try to bring things that are connected, at least from a stylistic standpoint. This seems on par with sort of my own sensibilities. I don't know if I can. I mean, I'm not a big Pinot Noir rosé guy. That's why I don't make one. I feel like this is not Pinot Noir rosé. I'd be surprised. And if it was, maybe there's a little Pinot Gris in there. I feel like it could have a little bit of a blend. I'm getting some Pinot Gris on the aromatics. It seems like there's an aromatic piece to it.
Right.
Or maybe some Gewurz or something. There's definitely something in there that's not that differentiates it, I would say. If I'm wrong, I'd be surprised, but I also would not be surprised.
No,
I'm wrong often.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think this is pretty sleek, whatever it is. I don't think I want to venture on varietal because I know I'll just. Whatever red's in there, that's not what I'm picking out. I don't think it's an orange wine. I think this is very clearly a direct press rosé, but there's something very floral and tropical in there that I dig.
Yeah, very nice. Well, at the end, I'll reveal what it is, and we'll
I can't wait.
Yes.
Hopefully, I was close on some things.
Yes. So ever since I've been doing research on your story and whatnot, there's been one question that I just wanted to start off with, and I'm like, I can't wait to ask this question. So, how's the modeling career going for a 6'2" winemaker whose size is 34 by 34 and his shoe size of 11?
One, that's some good research. And well, so it's funny. I do get that question a lot. It's one of those things where I just can't shake it.
Right.
In my 20s, while I was still in Chicago, so my first gig. Part of the reason, just as a quick segue, I named my brand Ricochet because of my existential crisis. So I've had many different careers. And in my 20s, out of college, I wanted to be a writer, and I got a paid corporate job to be a writer, an executive summary writer for Prudential Healthcare.
Right.
So basically writing the executive summary for General Motors, and their health insurance policy. Ugh. No one reads those things, right?
Right.
But it was money, and I was out of college, and great. But I quickly realized I was not a cubicle guy.
Right.
And somewhere around that time, I was at the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago with my wife, and it was like a gala event kind of thing, a fundraiser. And my would-be future representative came up to me and says, "Here's my card. I like the way you look." And I was confused. I didn't know what was happening. And I said, at that point, I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm flattered, but I'm actually with my wife." And my representative said, No, fool. I work for Ford Models.
Oh, okay.
And even I, a veritable troglodyte when it comes to fashion, knew who that agency was. That's the agency of like Kate Moss and Calvin Klein and all that stuff. So I went in, and when I was like 24, 25, I became a model. And now everyone takes that to this, I don't know if it's a romanticized image, but like people just assume like it's all catwalk and it's all this. And, at best I was doing a Bloomingdale's, ad in the Sunday Circular,
Right.
But it was a thing. I got to travel. I lived in Miami for several months, the good months, like January through March.
Nice.
I almost made a soap opera.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, the guy who got the gig ended up in that show This Is Us and got an Emmy. So I kind of like to think I was close to getting an Emmy.
Wow.
Like this close. So anyway, it was just a frivolous part of my life. and then somehow I actually blame a really good friend of mine. He was a reference when I worked at Domaine Serene. Mm-hmm. And Drew Voigt, who hired me, called him as a reference. And my friend said, "Make sure you ask Erich about modeling." So I was leaving it all behind to learn how to make wine. It was not something I necessarily was like, not unproud of, but it's a weird thing.
Right.
And so I literally get out of the car, and Drew's like, same as you. First question, what's that all about? And now most recently, you might find me, my daughter just saw me on TV. I'm in a Oregon State Credit Union TV ad.
Well, congratulations.
And so I'm doing it again. So because my wine brand went from being a side hustle to the real thing, I still need a side hustle.
You gotta have side hustles.
So I'm back at it.
Well, congratulations. You are the Cindy Crawford of winemaking.
Oh my God. Well, the margins are better, so that's good.
There you go. So back in February, I was at the Oregon Chardonnay celebration. I was sitting around, a group of people, and they were telling me about this indie winemaker celebration that was going to happen, for Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then and they're like, yeah. I'm like, "Oh, wow. What, when is it? Who's all is going to be there?" Somebody brought out their phone and is like, "Here's everybody that's coming." And so that's kind of when I started to hear more about you and, your story and your brand. And, I ended up going to Italy over Labor Day weekend, and I was crushed that I couldn't go. But what was the thought process coming up for the indie winemaker?
Yeah, so basically the idea is, where we currently are in the winery, we're in an industrial area. There is no tasting room here. I'm now after 4 years, I'm up to 2,000 cases. Like my brand is growing and it's growing strong. Right. But you need venues to sell it. I still very much, like a lot of my indie wine peers and colleagues, we hustle. I do the Beaverton Farmers Market on Saturdays. I do the Mac Farmers Market. I do whatever pop-ups I can get. I do whatever, festivals I can get.
Right. Because
I don't have my own place. I rent space here.
Right.
And so getting the brand out, I think people vaguely have an idea of how hard that hustle is, but the truth is because everyone always thinks too that, because wine is kind of romanticized, that we're always like sort of partying and having a good time. And generally speaking, if I'm not selling vacuum cleaners, right? So it is fun, yes, but it's exhausting.
Yes.
And what I have found is that, we'd start doing these events and whatnot. There's a lot of folks out there that, I'm at 2,000 cases, but, there are a lot of folks that are just starting out like I did when this was a side hustle at 150 or under 500 cases. And they're eager to find an audience. And then you'd also see like we're all kind of like going to like similar events. And so it just seemed to dawn on me that the rising tide lifts all the boats. What's really cool about Oregon, I think, that differentiates us from some of our other regional peers is that it's, we're competing for shelf space and for buyers, but we're collaborative. And we share, there are no necessarily secrets. We share ideas like, how did you make this? Or, I'm not an expert on Méthode Champenoise. You are, like, tell me about it. Those are not, so there's already this collaborative ethos.
Correct.
So back the last Thanksgiving, I have a wine club, and I can host them to come like do a pickup. But again, I can't do like one of those big Thanksgiving open houses here at the winery. It's just not the right space for it either. And so the very first indie wine mixer was just 4 of us. It was me, Jackalope, Gonzalez, and Mahita. And we, in about a week or 2 weeks, I put something together at locally here at Mac Market, and we just took their mezzanine, and it was kind of like off the cuff, like let's throw the pasta against the wall and see what happens.
Right.
And it was great.
Perfect.
And so, we're all friends, and we all like had fun, and we walked away. We all made money. We all sold wine, and so it dawned on me, well, Memorial Day weekend is also one of those weekends.
Right. And
again, where am I going to go? And so I don't know how I got up to 20 wineries, but in my dusty memory, around the time I was putting it together was also the Oregon Wine Symposium, and I was kind of asking if people would be interested, and within days I had a list of 20 people that would be interested. I mean, it just caught on fire, and people said, hey, if you're doing this thing, I want to be part of it. And I just took the reins. I mean, I found the venue. It was here in McMinnville at the Bindery, lovely venue. It ended up working out perfectly because it's across from the Atticus. It's right off of 3rd Street. So it was great for locals that don't need to drive. Everyone got to they paid a booth fee and then design your own table. So it was still kind of, everyone could show their own individual verve.
Right.
And, originally I thought, I'll collaborate, but it was just one of those things that it was because I've had event planning experience in my life. I just kind of took the ball and said, you know what, I'm going to try my best to get the points of service down and make sure this is a really rad event. And it turned out to be way better than my own expectations. I'm a pretty self-deprecating person. So but it was 2 days, noon to 5, Saturday and Sunday of that weekend. And we were busy noon to 5.
That's great.
People stayed for the entire time because they wanted to taste all the wines. We had a food truck out there, 2 different ones for both days. People sold wine. People had a good time. There were no problems. It was not pretentious. It was really just sort of authentic. And I don't know. It was really, it was a lot of work. There's a part where I kind of burned out a little bit, and I made myself go on vacation the weekend before. I went to North Carolina, dipped in a lake with some buddies.
Nice.
I forced myself. But in the end, because I just wanted to be perfect. It's kind of, there's a stress there. But once you kind of let it become its own thing and relinquish control, it is what it's going to be.
Right.
And thankfully, I mean, it was really magical. And leading up to the event, I had a waiting list. I still have people asking if they could get a booth because the word spread, and the theme is there are a lot of people trying to eke it out and trying to, and whether they're trying to do it full time or it's still a side hustle, they're trying to present their craft, and all they want is that space.
Exactly.
So we're doing it again. I already have it booked for next year.
Nice.
I'm trying to find the bandwidth to do a version for this Thanksgiving. We'll see if that pans out. Just to kind of keep that sort of indie wine vibe front of center.
Right.
And it's a really good. I mean, everyone's making killer wine. It's all different. You know, now we're getting different approaches and different philosophies. And I think that's what made it kind of special too. So it wasn't a festival that was thematic by, you know, it wasn't a natural wine festival. It wasn't a varietal. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a Chardonnay only or a Rosé only festival. And those are great events.
Right,
this was more about sort of personalities.
Well, it's in the spirit of Oregon wine itself. I mean, just everybody coming together to help one another out as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I actually had, and this is the part I did not think about, because for me, the pragmatic side is exposure, marketing, networking, but, you know, I want boxes to go out the door, just like anyone else. And the weeks after, I actually still just ran into someone at the farmer's market I did here in town. I've been thanked by local McMinnvillians because, you know, they get kind of burned out on the tourism and they live here.
Right.
And they're like, that was really, thank you for like a community event.
Yeah.
And that was not even on my radar, but in retrospect, it really kind of was a community event in a lot of the wine community, but also I've lived here for almost 20 years. This is my community.
Yeah.
So I wanted the event to be here and to celebrate this town. And so it was cool. And hopefully we laid the groundwork. And if I can have more than 20 wineries, we're going to do it.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I kind of heard a small rumor that nobody's allowed to bring balloon animals, though.
Really? Is that true?
I don't know.
Wait, were there balloon animals? I don't even know. I was so busy. The second day, I would have thought Sunday would have been more chill. I could not leave my own table. I had to put my table next to like the registration to kind of keep an eye. But I literally, I have no idea what happened the second day.
Okay.
So if there were balloon animals, now I am personally afraid of balloons.
Right,
so is that the rumor?
Yeah. That's,
so they don't have to be animals. They can just just a normal balloon.
Just a normal balloon.
Yeah. Who told you this?
Nobody told me. I just found it.
Okay, I'm gonna sniff this one out. Why all my fears are gonna be out there. Yeah, I don't like balloons. I have a fear of it's weird. I don't know why.
It's fine.
They can pop.
They can pop, and then it catches you off guard.
It's a little scary.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So I know you brought some of your wines. Should we pour one?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah.
Well, we did the rosé for the blind. Would you like to taste mine? You want to kind of do that?
Yeah, that would be great.
And again, these were opened yesterday.
Okay.
It's not a defense. That's just the truth. So this one is actually kind of fun because as part of the narrative in a lot of honest sort of winemaking, because people always ask, like, why do you do it this way or that way? And, you know, I think most honest winemakers, and I think almost all of us would say, well, sometimes winemaking decisions are made for you. So, you know, when someone says, well, why did you ferment it in stainless steel instead of barrels? Well, you go, well, I ran out of barrels. You know, so sometimes those things happen. The universe throws you a thing and you have to call it an audible.
Right.
This rosé, I call it the Confluence because, so my very first rosé was lovely and weird and great. It was 100% Mourvèdre from Southern Oregon. And I tried to make it in a Bandol style. And everyone loved that wine. It was sort of savory, salty Mourvèdre, right? But then those vines were young and they didn't survive like the years of drought and wildfires and basically shut down. And then the vineyard was sold and so I lost it. But I learned of that in July of 2021.
Okay. And
that's pretty late to learn that you lost fruit.
Right.
So my good friends at Loop de Loop, Julia Bailey, she said, well, I'm getting Viognier from the Gorge. It's a small site and they still have some Syrah and Malbec hanging. You maybe reach out. So on a lark, I reached out and I said, do you have any? I'm trying to make a rosé. And they said, well, we have just a little bit of Syrah, some Malbec, and some Viognier. And I said, well, I need about 3 tons. And they're like, well, we can give you a ton each. And I said, let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Right.
And I went out there and I called it the Confluence because the site on the label, I put a little Easter egg. That green diamond there is the vineyard, and it sits 500 feet above the confluence of the Columbia River and the Deschutes River.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
Right across is like the Deschutes River State Park, and it's a really dynamic setting. And it's a 17-acre rattlesnake-infested, sustainably farmed vineyard. And it started off as just like a field blend. I just threw it all together. I mean, that's not a thing. Malbec and Syrah, no. And you know, the universe gave me a silver lining because that first vintage of it just went, and it's, again, sort of like my style. I want it to be something you can enjoy on its own, but it's got to be food savvy. It's got to be balanced. The Malbec in there I think is really interesting because I've turned some red wine drinkers who go, I don't like rosé,
Right.
but there's enough structure there that I'm kind of turning heads to people who are like, I only drink reds. They're buying it. And it's those tropical notes that the Viognier brings. So it's just been fun, and it's literally just a field blend. So last year I did the same thing. Just give me what you got, foot stomp the Viognier, pitch it in the press, and let it be what it wants to be.
Yeah, and I never would have guessed it was a blend of those three grapes whatsoever. And I'm not the biggest rosé fan, because that twangy, that bitterness. But there's none of that there at all, and the acidity factor on that is wonderful, and that lingering finish. I really enjoy that. That's nice.
Thank you. That's high praise. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And that's done with purpose. I mean, the crazy thing is, with a project like this, the very first time, my white wine would be the same. Like, that's the very first time I ever made it. So it's almost like the very first time you do a thing, I want to have high expectations as far as, like, I need to make clean wines. I'm a low intervention guy. I start every project with a natural wine intent, but, like, they got to be clean. They can't taste like a foot, and then I'm not going to hang my hat on, well, it's natural. Like, I've been the customer or my supporters deserve good, clean wine. You can still be hands off, right? But with the first time doing a field blend, I don't even know, like, you can't really have expectations because that blend doesn't exist in the world. It's a proprietary weird thing. So maybe it doesn't do as well in the market. But when it does, then suddenly, like the second time I made this, now I work for my brand. I'm self-employed. I don't have a boss, but if there's a boss, it's the marketplace.
Of course.
Right. So now I need this second iteration, not to be the same as the first because I like vintage variation, but it's got to kind of hit the same boxes that made the first go round successful, because that's what people are going to expect. There's an expectation there. Right. So it's almost like the second time you do a thing, or maybe the third, like, those are more stressful.
Right, because you set an expectation. You said, it's just basically an expectation, a bar, and you got to hit it every single time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's congratulations. That's really nice, though.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. It actually just it's getting some good criticism, and those are the kinds of things. I'm not big into scores and stuff, but actually the biggest thing for me is when I like farmers markets. When people are like, because sometimes people aren't really into wine, and then they taste a wine like that, and it's reasonably priced, and then they go, wow, this is one of my favorites, and I go, like, that's the kind of praise that to me means way more, and so this has been a fun wine in that regard. It's been like it's been a fun way to introduce my brand to people, particularly in the summertime, and they want something cold.
Exactly. Earlier you mentioned, Drew Voigt asked you, the modeling question. So that was around 2004. Mm-hmm. You're coming into Domaine Serene, and it's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
To me, winemaking team. So you had yourself, Drew Voigt, and Tony Reinders.
Yep.
Just explain the atmosphere and, like, what was that like?
There's two others in that team too. Okay. So Rob Folan was the cellar master now, and he had Folan Cellars, and he's a esteemed winemaker now down in Ashland. Okay. And Michael Lundeen of Lundeen Wines. Yeah. So when I came on board, and I think in that order, Michael was the newest, and then I was like the newest. But they had been there for a couple of years. But that was the team, and that was a really great. Like, we had really good chemistry and, like, camaraderie. I moved out. I had never made wine before. I was a restaurant guy in Chicago.
Right.
And so I like to tell people, like, I knew how to sell wine. I knew how to buy wine. I put wine lists together. I certainly knew how to drink wine at that point. I fell in love with Pinot Noir at the last restaurant I was at, Crofton on Wells. Chef Susie Crofton came to, like, OPC in 1998 and immediately created a whole page in her wine list just dedicated to Pinot Noir, which was pretty ahead of the time in Chicago.
Of course,
like, it was new, but I fell in love with the grape because of that experience. Like, I kind of owe gratitude to Chef on that one. So I moved out here without ever having been to Oregon. and I drove directly 3 days. I didn't even take the fun way. I took like I-80. So like I went through like Cheyenne, which is not the pretty part of Wyoming.
No, it's not.
But I was booking it out for a gig. And so and I actually remember when I got across the border in Oregon, the topography didn't change much. And I thought, oh man, my wife's going to be so mad because it was just still like all kind of brown. And like, it said, welcome to Oregon. And I went, this does not look like the postcards.
No.
And actually, it's when you dogleg to the Dalles and then you see the mountain and you go, okay.
There we go.
But yeah, so I mean, because I had no context, I was just really open-minded. I loved immediately. I've always been a kinetic kind of person. Like I said, I'm not a cubicle guy. So, and they put me at it. I mean, in the 3 years I was at Serene, starting from that very first harvest, Tony was a very gracious mentor. I mean, he's a busy guy for that brand at that point. I mean,
Right.
Still huge, lots of attention, lots of expectations, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and yet always open to me, the guy who doesn't know anything from a wine production standpoint, asking questions.
Right.
Drew is still he's my landlord now, but he's also a mentor. We still have that connection, and I tell folks all the time that, I mean, I learned this industry is great, and I still think of it as an apprenticeship, almost like a guild. You can go to UC Davis, and there's nothing wrong with this, but you can go and just get your bachelor's degree, and then you can know how to make wine, but maybe you don't know how to run a forklift and stack 5 high.
Right.
So winemaking is not just that sort of it's not the academic stuff. It's blue collar work,
Yep.
and then within that, it's the standards of how we weren't allowed to drag hoses on the ground. That's not a thing that everyone does in this industry. Like, it's about being fastidious. It's about taking care. It's about project management. It's about looking forward. It's about, all these things that most people don't think about because most people just think about harvest and it's romanticized.
Right.
But, those other 10 months, there's a lot of action. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of caring and curating. There's a lot of cleaning.
A lot of
cleaning, right?
Yeah.
That first harvest, it kicked my butt. And then subsequently it did, and then they empowered me. That was my education. I started taking classes for winemaking, but to be honest, Domaine Serene, it was such a good experience that they taught me all the things I needed to know how to make wine. I don't know if you want to ask me like about redox reactions and the microbiology or enzymatic things going on at the very micro level. I will stare at you like a deer in headlights. But I learned how to have a sensory approach,
Right.
and then use the quantitative data to corroborate what I'm experiencing,
Right.
and then how to use that data to, if I do have to intervene, how to do so. That's what I took away from that experience, and I'll always be grateful. My current ethos is very different. My product line and how I approach and the demographic, right? That's very different now.
Of course.
But I think being in a place with such high expectations, that's still one of the cleanest cellars that you can visit.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was what was impressed upon me, that it does start. It doesn't start in the lab. It starts in the vineyards, but then it starts in the cellar and how you work and how you keep it organized. And it's even to things like barrels need to be. It's even being fastidious from an aesthetic, like, because we're organizing things.
Right.
Which I appreciate from. That's from my restaurant days. That's mise en place. There's a place and a purpose and
Right.
for everything. So.
Right.
So yeah, that was a really great experience. I only lasted 3 years there. During the harvest of the third year, I couldn't walk, like, all of a sudden, and I had to have hip surgery, and full circle, because I couldn't walk for like a year. I was put into a cubicle to do compliance, which I was grateful. I didn't lose my job.
Right.
But then that's where I went, well, I guess I can't do this job anymore. So, and the Evans dads were very gracious. I was very thankful, but I left and I got my master's degree, and that's when I became a teacher. And because I just thought it was over.
Right.
And I also didn't have the context for, that was the only winery I ever worked for. I didn't have the context for, there's different types of wineries.
Right. No, and that makes sense.
But yeah, and so I left for about 6 years, and I was teaching down in Dallas. And I got really ambitious. Kids thought I was cool. I had a cane. But I was an AP Lit teacher. I was doing tennis coaching. I was doing all the things. I was the department chair all of a sudden. And then lo and behold, after 6 years, I became a statistic and I burned out. And this is where part of the name of the brand comes. That's when my friends at Illahee reached out and said, "Brother, you gotta stay active."
Right. And I think to me, the quote that you like to say is, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man."
Right.
So you did quite a turnaround, and so you were a totally different man when you went to Illahee.
I was broken. I'm pretty open about this at this point. In our country, particularly with mental health at that time even, and still today, when people burn out or have a panic attack even or whatever, there's still some taboo there. But I think even more so, I felt embarrassed that I burned out. I felt ashamed that I burned out because I was ambitious. Right. And I thought I was what I was supposed to do. I thought I'd be a teacher for the rest of my life. I loved the work. And I felt bad. I felt bad that I had to quit because it wasn't on my terms.
Right.
And Illahee, and I tell my friend Brad Ford all the time, he saved my life. Just from myself. I was a different person, but I was also just facing this like existential. Well, I thought I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. I thought I finally figured it out.
Right.
And it turns out that maybe I liked teaching, but teaching didn't like me. Like the pressure of the gig it broke me.
Right.
And so by him bringing me on, I started doing Harvest, and then literally within a couple weeks, like I was sort of educating. I was in charge of the interns. I was starting to do. It all came back. And within that Harvest, I was the associate winemaker or whatever.
Right.
And that would be unpredictable. Like that was not even my expectation. I was just going to go back just to be busy, just to be healthy, but it was a reset for sure.
Yeah.
And then that was a completely different experience from Serene. A little more laid back. We still had high expectations, but more low intervention and experimental. Right. Growing the business from 5,000 cases to 10,000 cases. doubling volume.
That's a lot there.
Yeah, and I was all there for that. So that experience was great. From like, how do you take a new brand and sort of grow it?
Right.
So all these experiences have been really valuable, one way or the other.
And I can imagine. And then going back just a little bit on the anxiety front, with this past weekend when I was at IPNC, I ran into a tasting room associate who had pure anxiety for all the people that was there, and I'm like, holy cow, I never would have guessed that. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice, for people, who do have that type of anxiety, and how to overcome it or how to live with it and accept it? And
yeah, that's tough. Well, I feel like it was either Mark Twain or Ben Franklin. It was one of those guys. I think it gets misappropriated, but there's a saying, something like, "Wise men never give advice, and fools always take it." So it's something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Like that. Right.
Because it's such a singularly unique experience for everyone. I know for myself, anxiety to me if it's stress induced, then somehow you have to breathe and kind of relinquish some control. I think that's for me the hard part. Like, I'll get really anxious because I am kind of a control freak. I'm a type A East Coast guy by birth.
Right.
And so if I feel like I'm not really in control, or if I'm overwhelmed with how many dishes I have to spin, that can be a trigger for my anxiety, and then it's being paralyzed. But what's really happening is, that's fight or flight. Being active, like if I can force myself to just do something to get that energy out and use it in a different way.
Right.
And one of the things that I love now, because I'm starting to get a little more help, but I'm still doing all my cellar work. And the days where I come into this winery and I'm not on my laptop and I'm not thinking about sales, marketing, compliance, bills, anything, but all I have to do is rack 20 barrels and clean them and hop in a tank and, get dirty and do the work.
Right.
Those are my best mental health days.
Of course. Yeah.
So I think, and it would be true when I was teaching. My anxiety wouldn't be happening during my teaching because I'd be in it. I'd be present-minded. It would be leading up to it. Right. Or as soon as the bell rang at 3 o'clock, and then it would just be like a tsunami. So to me, some of the survival is, I can't be idle. If I'm idle, my head's gonna spin.
Right, right.
But I also understand. I'm an extrovert, and I can do jazz hands all day long. But I've been in environments like that. Where I get kind of anxious because if you're beating yourself up inside. I sometimes have the assumption that everyone else is also thinking how I'm thinking about myself, which is a completely irrational thing. Yeah. But if you're down on yourself, that's kind of the prism that you see the world in. Right. And it's not true. Most people aren't thinking about other people. Almost everyone's always thinking about themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
But when you're anxious or depressed or whatever, or if you're self-deprecating, there's this false belief that, well, if I don't think that highly of myself, then that must be true for the whole world. It's easy to catastrophize.
It's very easy to do, and there's a saying that's kind of gone around that I always try to keep my awareness of is everybody's just trying to get through the day just like myself,
right?
And just have that compassion, and what would you say to yourself to get through the day, and so. Right. Show that same respect to the other person.
Yeah, I love that. I've been actually working on that concept of self-forgiveness, self-love, self-kindness.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to forgive others, but I know for myself, I have a hard time. I will dwell and I will carry a grudge almost against myself, because I am going to be my own biggest critic.
Right.
And sometimes that's a positive thing. Like I tell people for, this thing I'm trying to make that hopefully people will take home, drink, and enjoy, sometimes I don't like it as much as other people. But that's because I guess I'm a pessimist in a way. And it's that self-criticism. In that case, though, that self-criticism can be fuel to never rest on your laurels and to always be like, I think I can do this better next time.
Right.
And I think that's true for athletes, and there's that sort of I know I scored 3 goals, but I should have gotten 4. It's that kind of mentality.
Right.
But then the other side of that sort of self-criticism is when it's not due, it's an unworthy criticism. You didn't really do anything terrible or wrong or whatnot, or you had good intention. I mean, a lot of it's intentionality.
Exactly.
This is what I meant, and it didn't go my way. And then some people, it's like water off a duck's back.
Right.
And some people like myself, I will dwell on that, unforced error.
Right. I think a lot of us kind of do that, and we just gotta be, like you said, love ourselves.
Yeah.
Shall we try another one of your wines?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you interested in?
Again, dealer's choice.
Oh man, see, I'm gonna be self-critical about this.
Well, I've never been exposed, so I mean, I can't even.
Well, how about my flag? Well, I got a flagship, and then I have some single vineyards.
Okay.
Flagship sounds about right.
Okay.
Some Pinot.
Yeah. No, that
Unless
sounds
you want
good.
some white.
No, Pinot's fine.
Okay.
So as you're opening that, I have to go back to my high school days a little bit, and my English teacher.
Yeah.
I was deep into Stephen King's The Dark Tower.
Oh, okay.
And I was trying my hardest to get my English teacher to, bring that book into the class for everybody to read. And it was I was denied every single time. So my question to you is, how in the world did you get The Road by Cormac McCarthy into the classroom?
How did you find all this stuff out? Is my syllabus out there?
Well, go ask. You should hear the questions that I asked Jess and Peyton. They were like, "What in the world?"
This is good. Okay. Now I'm kind of scared, but I kind of want to hire you to investigate things. Wait, what was the question?
How did you get The Road into the classroom?
Oh man. Cormac McCarthy, by the way, just passed away a month ago.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we should pour some out for him here a little bit. That was for advanced placement, and I got a grant to get books, and I was teaching down in Dallas, which is a very conservative town. Cormac McCarthy is, one of the best authors in the 20th century, 21st century. I don't really know how I got it. I just bought the books. I got a grant. Right. And at that point, advanced placement, I was the only one teaching it. So, and I think there was all I had to argue was, this is a college level class, people are getting caught. That book is, if you're familiar, it sounds like you are, is deeply disturbing, but also really relevant. I think about that book all the time. I thought about it during the pandemic. I thought about it during the wildfires, because the imagery, right, and sort of like where does humanity go when everything
goes to hell?
Yeah, right.
So I have a confession.
Yeah.
I love to read. I don't do a whole lot of fiction. I got sucked into a book group that is nothing but Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
And so last month was my first introduction to Cormac McCarthy.
Oh, okay.
And so we read Suttree, and that was such...
Oh, I don't know if I know that one.
It's a long epic. It's not as dark as some of his other books, but that was my first introduction. I'm like, holy cow, I got a whole big rabbit hole I got to go down now.
Well, Blood Meridian, that's going to be the one.
I think that might be the next one.
Okay. Well, we'll have to catch up on the. let me know how you survive that one. But
okay.
It just I advocated.
Right.
I advocated for my students. I wanted to push my students. I also didn't want to just teach them only Jane Austen, and so many of those classes that turn kids off of reading are the ones where you're like, okay, it's Scarlet Letter, which I now love, but it's all those classics which are important in the canon, but are they're not fun to read.
Right.
And when I brought on books like The Road, I also after my students took the AP test, I had 3 weeks of class. I did an existential unit, and we read The Stranger by Camus, which I have these are 16, 17-year-olds, and we're like,
right.
All right, so character just shoots a guy for no reason. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And then we watched some great movies like Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell, and just wrapping our head around existentialism, which is a pretty, dark concept.
Right. It is.
When you're 16.
Yep.
And they loved it because it was challenging the status quo a little bit.
Right.
Getting to think about things when I was teaching The Road, the world was pretty good, and sometimes fiction. The benefit of fiction is you can create in that book he's creating a world you don't really know where it is. It's totally there's nothing specific about location or
right.
but how it feels and the reality of what's potential to happen. 16-year-olds don't necessarily think about those things,
no.
And then they do. And I don't know if I did them a favor or not, but I like to think I did.
Yeah, no, congratulations.
And then they got great AP scores, so that's all that matters.
That's great.
They got college credit.
Yes. All right, so tell me a little bit about this wine.
Well, since you mentioned the quote, this is my flagship Pinot. This is the original label, and on the back is that quote by Heraclitus, who was a pre-Socratic philosopher. Socrates would be nothing without Heraclitus, and this was a profound idea that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for he's not the same man, and it's not the same river. That idea, thousands of years ago, was profound. It doesn't sound so profound now, but I think about that, and this is my, Willamette Valley Pinot Noir 2021, just released to my club first in May. And 4 different vineyards, Eola Springs, Holmes Gap Vineyard, Yamhill Valley Vineyards, and a small one that my buddy Michael Lundeen farms called Sylvia's in the Amity Hills. No new oak, 30% whole cluster fermentation. Again, no synthetic additives. I don't use animal proteins. This is unfined and unfiltered, which is the way everyone made their Pinots, but sadly is increasingly rare to find an unfiltered Pinot Noir in the Willamette Valley. But if I don't have to do a thing, I don't. It's a clean wine, and filtering it, in my view, will kind of strip it of some of that tension.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with this wine. I think the vintage is going to be great.
Yeah, no, the 2021 vintage itself is great. And I I love the fact that you didn't come out with this, for almost 2 years. All right. Some people are like a year later, they're like, boom, here's my next vintage.
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, if you think about, we had 2020 in there. And as I'm sure you're aware, there are many wineries, particularly bigger wineries in the valley, that did not make wine in 2020.
Correct.
Well, in 2020, I was on crutches. We had the wildfires, we had the pandemic, but I was also sold out of wine. And I had to make wine that year. I did not have a choice. So, and I'm really proud of my 2020. It came out clean. When people ask, is there smoke in there? I go, yeah, probably, but it's not, it didn't smell like an ashtray. Like I caught an audible. I picked the fruit after it rained, but I still gave it the college try, and I made wine. And so I sold through that. And to your point, I think, I was seeing 2021 Pinots released end of last summer, fall. Like,
exactly.
So it was, but I think a lot of that is, they finally got through the 2019s. They didn't have any 2020s, and everyone was just, distributors, everyone's just like, if you say 2020, they didn't even want to try it, regardless of how good it was.
Right.
And so you saw people jumping ahead. I also, in my view, and I think this is maybe more for smaller boutique wineries like me, the people who support my brand don't really care if they're buying a young wine, quote unquote, because they know it's going to sell out. And the pandemic also made people care less, because when they were stuck at home and on a Zoom call, they were opening $40 plus wine just because they had it. And they weren't waiting 3 to 5 years to open it. They were like, well, the world's ending, so I'm going to drink this now. So things have changed. I think people now know that the burden of aging wine is more on the consumer. And then for me, I don't really hit my wine hard with sulfur throughout its life. And, this is still very much a young wine. It's going to evolve. It's going to last a long time. But my wines generally, when you pop them, they kind of hit the ground running. They don't really go through bottle shock. And so I think that also depends on when people release. Like, hopefully people are releasing it when it's delectable and ready to drink. But, the marketplace is the boss. And if people say we want it, why would you say, no, we're going to wait 3 more years?
Yes, that is very true. And, again, this is a great wine. It's, to me, you get those, those brighter red fruits. It's smooth, it's silky. And then that, again, you have a nice, beautiful lingering finish that kind of holds it in place. And it's, when you said there was no new oak, I was kind of surprised, because it felt, just that finish was a little racy, is what I call. And I would have attributed that to oak, but that's
skins and stems. Yeah, that's at 30%. I also do at least 21 days on skins if I can. The exception would be if the cap falls before that. But because sometimes I get people from out of state when they visit, and even though they're coming to Pinot Noir country, they'll be like, I'm a big red guy, and Pinots are so thin, right? That's sort of like a knock on Pinot.
Right.
And certainly they can be. It depends when you pick it. It depends how you make it. I pick my fruit when it's ripe. So this kind of differentiates me from some of the natural wine folks that, are 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. If you pick based on acidity so that you don't have to ever adjust the acid, you're not going to get as much fruit. And you're not going to have as much skin color, because maybe you're picking, like, it just hasn't developed. And so those can be highly acidic, really more sort of old world wines, which are fine.
Right.
I mean, that's your style. For me particularly, and this could just be the way that I came up, in the ranks. Not that I don't want my wines to be like that California just fruit bomb. Like a Pinot, you can get it ripe and fat and have no acid. To me, I think I'm a visual guy. I think about a triangle, and I think about balance. And so, like, on a whiteboard, I had to draw a triangle, and on the top would be fruit, because fruit's the most important. That's what you smell, it's what you taste, it's what's driving it. I pick my fruit when it's ripe. When the birds want it, that's what the point of a grape is, so that the seeds get pooped over there.
Right.
And so seeds need to be brown and crackle in my, when I crunch them. Stems need to start being lignified, because I'm doing a whole cluster. Like, I'll let it hang. Some other people will be picking a week or two before me for the same block, right? Or same whatever. So So I think that's where I get more extraction and I get more depth. And then part of that pyramid then would also be, in this corner, I'd put structure, tannins, and then acidity. And for me, Pinot, I kind of want it to be an equilateral triangle. Whereas, you know, some wines, if it's all acid, it'd be I can't do this with my fingers, but it'd be an isosceles or something, right? It'd be less fruit, more acid. And so in the middle, that's where I write the word tension.
Right.
So tension to me is like this, every time you dip into it, they're playing with each other. You're getting some layers. And so the acidity of my wines is very important. And if I have to adjust it, I do, using tartaric acid. Yeah. But still, I'm not the tension part and the grip part. Like, that's why if I don't have to filter it, like I feel like if I filtered this, maybe it would give me an insurance policy by killing everything in it. But wine's still alive. And if you see the process, I mean, it goes from, I mean, if I want to make this crystal clear so I can read my wine list through it.
No, I don't want that.
Well, that's a lot of what people are getting now.
Right.
And I understand why people do that. It's a preemptive.
Right.
But it strips the wine of some of those speed bumps in the palate.
Right.
And I've had people say that they have Pinot Noir fatigue because they think Pinots are kind of they all taste the same. And I don't think they taste the same. I think it's to me, it's like they want some action on the back of the palate. So if I can get that, and this is pretty emblematic of the style that I'm shooting for every time. Like, I want there to be some play on the back of the palate, without it being, I don't think Pinot needs a lot of new oak. And so, and I've gotten people to, you know, there's depth here.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Without it being opulent. And that to me is Oregon Pinot, if you can get it.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I was surprised that you did a triangle and not a Venn diagram. So after Illihi, you know, you went on to Day Wines, and, you know, you made a Gruner.
Yep.
And Brienne Day, you know, tasted it, and she's like, you need to make this legitimately.
Right.
So my question to you is, if Brienne hadn't actually tasted that Gruner, how long do you think it would have been until you would have came out with your wine?
All right. So that's a really great question. When I was hired at Day Wines, I asked permission. You know, I've been an assistant winemaker, and I've always been, you know, I've taken orders and I know what to do, but like, I've never had the pressure to do it myself. Because it's one thing, it's still a lot of pressure to be the associate or assistant winemaker.
Right.
You still got to stick the landing, but there's a very different pressure when it's like, I'm paying X amount of dollars per ton. Now it's my fruit. Now there's no one, like, it's only me.
It's all me. Yep.
And so I wanted that pressure. But I got 1 ton of Pinot Noir from Keeler Estate, which is now in Ticatera. And
I was going to talk about that.
And then I got that 1 ton of Gruner. And I had made Gruner at Illihi, and I really like Gruner. And I actually am not a big Chardonnay guy. That's why I don't have one in my lineup. And I just wanted sort of an everyday sort of proletarian or pedestrian white wine. And I had access to Gruner. I was like, great.
Yes.
And I was literally going to just sell it to friends and family. I mean, that's 75 cases each. And I had people buy like shares to help me buy the fruit. And but I was the biggest shareholder.
Right.
And so I was literally just going to put, you know, like those Avery labels that say my name is at a conference.
Right.
I was literally just going to like put that, and my name is Pinot Noir, and just like hand it out to people. I had no ambitions. I had nothing designed. I didn't have a name for this thing. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if this would have eventually evolved naturally to something that I was going to do legitimately had Brienne not suggested, hey, this is good. You know what you're doing. Use my winery permit to create a label.
Right.
And then I did, and so this is the first label, the Pinot, and then a Gruner, which I don't have anymore for this year, but it's coming back. And then I would, whatever free time I would take up to Portland, and suddenly my Gruner is being bought by Olympia Provisions and Coquine and Quaintrell, and like, I mean, it blew my, I mean, those places I revere.
Right.
And suddenly that's what kind of legitimated the brand. Like, when actually the very first event I did for Ricochet was called Just Pressed. I don't know if you ever went to that. It was at Olympia Provisions.
Okay.
And it was in December, I think. And it was literally you brought a finished product, but then you brought the next vintage of the same thing. So I had Gruner in bottle.
Right.
And then I had Gruner a tank sample or a barrel sample. And then the whole idea was letting people taste things that were just pressed. And then you could sell. And it was the first event that I was there representing Ricochet. And I had a line for my Gruner. And it blew my mind because those things to me are still very much surreal. Like I still, even though I'm at 2,000 cases now and I'm trying to build this brand, when people come up to me and say, "Hey, I bought your wine somewhere else," and not through me, like I don't know them, and like I loved it. Like now there's something happening that still floors me. It's still surreal. It's still very. I hate when people say humbling, but I guess that's the best word for it now. But like, because this never was supposed to be, and now it is, and now it's its own thing. It has its own momentum, for which I'm very grateful. And yes, and I always give gratitude to Briande for that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You were talking about Keeler Estate a little bit, and that's where you had your first, Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Just to hypothesize. Just for a second, do you think Antica Terra is going to hold any tastings or anything out there at Keeler?
I have no idea. I can't speak. I cannot speak for what Antica Terra
I know. I just hypothesize. I mean,
they're right next doors, right? So
right. It would be. It's a beautiful, beautiful setting, and I was out there last November, and I visited Nicholas in Authentique.
Yeah.
And it's a gorgeous property.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I feel like it would be a shame not to hold any sort of tastings or something out there.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Well, hopefully they're listening and they'll take your advice.
That would be great. So you've mentioned, being a winemaker, it allows for some flexibility in your schedule and whatnot, so you can spend time with your family.
Yeah.
What are those cherishing moments that you really enjoy?
Well, see, that's kind of funny. I mean, like I mentioned at the top, it's already August 1st, and I had all these plans to, maybe get a little camping in with the daughter, and I became a big paddleboarder. That was my pandemic, hobby that emerged, and because the hustle is what it is. I mean, we've gotten some vacations in and whatnot, but I'm finding that I am working all the time, and a lot of that's very positive. I'm stoked about everything, and it kind of makes me reflect. I've reflected on my parents because both of them were business owners, entrepreneurs, and we'd go to like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we'd be poolside or beachside. And back then, my mom had like the huge briefcase that was a cell phone,
right.
And she'd be like in a bathing suit, but like with the briefcase and like a legal pad, like making a crackly phone call to New York or whatever, and always be working. And as a child, I would just like chide her and be like, "Why are you always working?" And she's like, "Well, because I have to. Like, no one's going to answer the phone for me." And I kind of get that now. But what we try to do, my daughter and I love paddleboarding. She's into it, so we have two of them. I got a chocolate lab. I have a yellow lab, but we got a chocolate lab right before harvest last year. So I still have a puppy. And so we try to spend some time just with the puppies and playing with them, taking them for walks. But if I can get out to the coast, I mean, the biggest thing for me living in McMinnville, if I just need like nature, but I don't have the time to like hike or whatever.
Right.
I literally put the entire family, dogs and all, in my F-150, and I drive to Pacific City. And north of Cape Kiwanda, there's a beach. We call it Dog Beach. I think I don't know the name of the beach. And you can drive right on it.
Right.
And I just put the tailgate down, get a bonfire going, drink some beers, watch the sunset, play some dogs. Like, those tend to be, like, if I can get that, that's a solid day. That's a solid present moment, like, situation.
Yeah.
But it's tough. I mean, I try, like, I'm doing a pop-up next week in Bend, and I love Bend.
Yep.
So my family's coming with.
That's good.
And so we have the pop-up, and then we have the weekend to hit Smith Rock, or we'll take the paddleboards up to one of those lakes, Elk Lake or something like that. Right. And so, like, I'm just trying to carve in little bits.
And that's good.
Yeah. And we did Leavenworth this year. I've never been up there.
That's
and
nice.
so we floated the Wenatchee. and went to Lake Chelan and that lake is. Have you ever been up to Lake Chelan?
I have not. No.
It is like perfectly clear turquoise glacial water, and
wow.
the temperature's perfect, and you can just like paddleboard out, or people have got pontoons or whatever, and it's rejuvenating. And then there's like 40 wineries. It's all vinifera.
Oh dang!
It's like one of the newest AVAs. Yeah,
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Drink some wine, paddleboard.
Yeah. Very cool. Shall we do one more wine, and then we'll do some rapid fire questions?
Yeah. Oh, rapid fire.
And then I'll get you out of here.
You want to do Tempranillo just because it's different?
Yeah.
And one of my culty favorites, I think.
Have you heard of an event that that happens in the fall called Raise the Temp?
No.
So Drew and Aaron Allen, they bought Vidon.
Oh yeah.
So now it's called Capri. I always mispronounce that. So anyway, but every fall they do a Raise the Temp event at the Chehalem like arts studio.
Yeah.
And so there's multiple wineries that are there pouring their Tempranillo.
Oh, okay.
So it might be something.
I got to get in there.
Yeah, something to check out.
Well, this is from Southern Oregon. It's sourced from Coventina Vineyards. It's a little town called Merlin. I don't even think Merlin has like a traffic light. It's south of Grants Pass, sort of on the west side of like the back way to Jacksonville. So it's not it's Rogue, but then like if you go a little further, then you end up in the Applegate. Herb Quaddy manages this site, and actually it was Herb Quaddy who, like, I was going down there looking for Sangiovese, and then I wasn't enamored with the site or the fruit of the Sangiovese, and Herb was like, well, I have some Tempranillo, and I didn't want to do everything that I did at Illahee. So I was like, I already do a Gruner, and then they do a Tempranillo Rosé, which is delightful. So, but I went to go see the site. The vines are planted 45 degrees to the sun, which if you imagine, Tempranillo is a big, burly, thick-skinned grape. That means it's getting the sun on both sides of the vine all day long.
Holy cow.
But then, down there, it drops 30, 40 degrees at night. So you get this sort of diurnal shift. It gets real hot. It really builds those skins. I mean, you're getting some good purpley color here.
Some great.
But it retains its acidity because Tempranillo is notoriously flabby. I get this. I might have to adjust it a little bit, but again, this is 30% whole cluster fermentation, lit up on its own. This does have a little new oak, and the irony there is that it actually helps soften or broaden the wine, because when you have tannins kind of meet with tannins, they bind and fall out. And yeah, 11 months in oak, and it's unfined and unfiltered just like everything else. And it's the commentary I get, and it's usually people think of Tempranillo as like a Spanish Rioja, Ribera de Duero, and those tend not to be very fruit centric. It's all that sort of saddle leather, tobacco leaf, and this still has those markers, I think.
Right.
But it has, and it's not opulent. It's not fat. It looks like it's gonna be, but it's got some blue black like depth, fruit in there that that I just find like this is what so in my club I allow people to I curate, here's your fall shipment, but change it up if you want. I have a couple club members that go, can I just do all Tempranillo? And I go, sure. That's fine.
But to me, it's fascinating. There's a huge group of Tempranillo fans here in Oregon, and that's it is surprising how many people are big into Tempranillo. And tasting this, you're right. There gets those purple hues, in the glass, which is wonderful. Right upon entry, it's that nice, smooth elegance, and then you can get some of that fruit, and then you definitely get those tannins, which is like, holy cow! I can't wait to see what this is like in 10+ years.
Yeah, no, you can lay this sucker down for sure.
Yes.
And the reason people ask me why would I release this, because this would be a good example of maybe the winery should hold on to it to let it age a bit more over vintage. Right now, because I rent space and this place gets so full, I can't over vintage in the barrel.
Right.
So pragmatically, everything goes to barrel. But again, like I think it has enough weight that I released this last Thanksgiving, and it went real well with the wintertime and holidays and whatnot.
Yes.
But I agree with you; it is a baby, and it can. I would like to see 5 years, 10 years, like hit those marks. So I'm definitely starting a library now, which is kind of a new fascinating thing for my brand. Like holding back 10 cases of each product.
Right.
And I think this will be one. It'd be kind of cool to do like a vertical one day and just kind of see.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. But also, this would be great, for Christmas Day dinner.
Oh yeah.
With like a prime rib roast.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, invite me over when you do that.
I will do so. All right, I got some rapid fire questions, and we'll reveal the blind wine.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I already forgot about that.
So, favorite artist to listen to during harvest?
Ooh, Avett Brothers.
Okay. Favorite indulgent food?
Oh my gosh, quick fire. Favorite indulgent food?
Indulgent, like you're just having a bad day or whatever. And
you know what? Mint chocolate chip ice cream. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rocky Road would be mine. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. You know what? Like I feel like I should know these things. I want to say flying, but I don't think so. I'm scared of heights. Superpower? Maybe just being better with money. Is that a superpower?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be better with money.
Okay. Your harvest notes, are they digital or handwritten?
Oh, it's handwritten and they're a mess.
Okay. And the last book you read? Normally, I ask this question, last book you read. It could also be on Audible or a podcast, but I have a feeling you like your hard...
I do. I've been trying to do the Kindle. Actually, I just finished a James Bond book. I read Moonraker.
Okay.
That was good. And I actually have like 3 books I'm in the middle of, and like they kind of stay there.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book called How to Raise an Optimistic Child by Martin Seligman, who did science on optimism, which, based on our conversation, is a good place to start. And so I want to make sure my kid's an optimist and not a pessimist like me. But I also just started a lovely, funny book by Sarah Vowell, who's this like nonfiction essayist, and it's called A Partly Cloudy Patriot. And it's just like little essays on, like she writes a letter to Bill Clinton, this is like 2002 it's written about like what kind of presidential library he should have. And it's just hilarious and great and historically like fun. And so
I'll have to check that out.
I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking. I'm not reading much fiction, which is what I always taught. I'm actually finding myself reading more nonfiction.
Yeah, I just got a book on phylloxera.
Oh,
and it's
riveting.
It's like 350, 400 pages long, and it's like the whole history of phylloxera and how we got vines from Europe, and then it came over to America, and then they went back over to Europe, and then phylloxera, and I'm fascinated, and I can't wait to dive into it.
It's like a horror film.
Exactly. Yes. All right, shall I reveal the wine?
Oh, yeah.
Any other comments or anything before I bring it out?
No, you can just...
Okay.
So, oh, man! I was right, Pinot Gris!
Yes.
That's dope. I love this wine.
Yeah, no.
That's why this is good.
And I know it doesn't have a direct tie to you, but like part of the indie winemaker group was Jessica and Payton. And so, it was...
this is rad. I was trying to get those notes, and there's no way I was going to guess producer, but I feel pretty good about my assessment.
Yeah, no,
I think I got it.
You did great.
And I was like, maybe not skin contact, but that would be the thing. It wasn't direct press, but I think because it's interesting about this wine too. The connection is my pet nat is the same Pinot Gris, and we got it at the same time. So she did skin contact, and I did skin contact, and but mine lit up and fermented, and hers was like cold soaked, so that's why it's this really pretty color. But we both made 2 wines from the same source, but then they're completely different animals, which is kind of fun.
That is fun.
Yeah. No, their point of contact is great. So thank you for bringing that. That's great.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't have any more questions. Do you have anything for me or anything at this point?
No, I don't know. I didn't realize I could ask you questions.
It's a two-way street. It is a totally two-way street.
No, I'm just super grateful for the time, and it was good hangout and conversations.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me on this flavorful voyage through the world of wine on the Wine Notes podcast. I've been your host and guide, AJ Weinzettel, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing these captivating stories with you. But alas, like the last sip of a fine vintage, our time together must end. But don't fret, my wine-loving friend. The cellar doors of the Wine Notes podcast will always remain open, waiting for you to return and explore new conversations, stories, and musings from the captivating people behind the magical world of wine. Before you go, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and don't forget to leave a sparkling 5-star review to help spread the word. Until our glasses clink again, remember to savor life's moments and let the spirit of wine and camaraderie linger on your palate. Cheers, and as always, may your wine glass be full, your heart be light, and your journey be delight.